phone with an oyster.
Good. We good? You guys can all see?
Yes.
We're good with the camera too?
Okay.
Okay, so our goal with these sessions is to do something once a month called an Industry Leader Series. So it's gonna be a combination of people in various industries, whether it's development, design. We got some NFL celebrities and things like that. We're going to bring in people from all different industries and bring you guys content, whether it's team building or what they do in their business, how do they build their business and things like that, to give you different perspectives, which I think will be helpful moving forward in your business. So today we're excited to start this series with Joseph Ferrugio, right? And Ferrugio Design, and he's been in business doing residential, luxury high-end residential as well as hospitality over at least 10 years, up to 82,000 square foot projects. So again, I think he's got a substantial resume. You can see from some of the properties and things like that. Has anybody actually been in some of these properties out on tour? No?
Maybe Jason.
Okay, so you guys do, so I want to ask about your background, but you not only do new builds, but you also do renovations and things like that. And again, not just through Los Angeles, but really through California and the high-end marketplace.
Throughout, we have projects spanning the globe.
Oh, you do? Okay, great.
Yeah, we have projects in China, we have projects in New York, we have projects in most of California.
Okay, so share with us a little bit about your background and your company, and about how you guys have gotten to this level. This is obviously the upper echelon of anything, right? So you guys have made it to the very top. So how did you get there? What was that? What did that path look like?
I have a really great. This is our team. Fernando right over here, and I have here sort of where we started and how we've been, where we got to where we are. I moved to Los Angeles in 2001. I hated my garden inside of my Silver Lake little bungalow that I had, and I renovated it. I was in Armstrong's getting plants and just made it look better. The neighbor saw it. She then said, "Hey, would you do mine?" And I said, "Yeah, why not?" And she goes, "How much would you charge me?" And I said, "Just pay me $50." So then I redid her garden. She referred me then to somebody in Glendale, and then it was all throughout Eagle Rock and Mount Washington from like the early part of the 2000s. And then right around 2005, I started getting calls for bigger projects and bigger landscapes. And I was really starting to get in over my head because they were just really large projects.
And this was exterior and interior.
Yeah, okay. Exterior. Well, not the interior yet.
Yeah, okay.
Interior started coming right around like 2006, about like 6 years into doing all the landscape design. And so what I did to start doing interiors was I enrolled at Woodbury University in Burbank, and I started doing their architecture program there. And I got an internship at a hotel design firm, and so from about 2007 up until 2012, I was doing hotels and large resort properties all over the place for Sheraton, MGM, Marriott, Disney, just a slew of different brands. And then from there, I started working with Sheldon Adelson, who is the owner of the Venetian. And after that project in 2012, I said, I'm going to start my own firm. And so I started Ferrugio Design in 2012. And I got referred to a developer in Beverly Hills. And our first project was 1181 Hillcrest, which we had a $15 million budget, and sold the house for a record-breaking $70 million.
Okay.
And from there, he said, "I want you to do more houses for me." And I said, "Okay." And we did 4 more houses for that developer, and then
So some people would say you're lucky, right? Because in business, you make it pretty high, and they say you got your big break or you got lucky. They don't see all the work to get to that point, right?
Yeah.
So give us instances or learning experience or things like that gave you the opportunity. Because I don't believe luck is the thing. It's about being in the right place.
And perseverance.
But it's it's grit, right? It's
a
grit.
lot of
It's about
perseverance. It's a lot of for my industry. You know, you're on a project for a few months to a couple of years, and then you're flipping to another project. So I think that through the repetition of just meeting more people, going and doing more, even just doing somebody's bathroom renovation, or just their front yard, or just their backyard, because that's a lot more of the people, and so we started there, and we still continue to do those projects.
because the bread and butter is more consistent, right? The bread and butter in general is more consistent. Again, like you said, there's a larger population from a demand perspective.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of people want to renovate their outdoor kitchen.
Right.
A lot of people want to renovate their indoor kitchen. So we take on those projects, and it's just that a lot of people see us and they think that we just do these estate projects, but there's a lot more. The flip that somebody's doing inside of Van Nuys that needs some advice, and they call us up and we go in there and we have a couple hour session with the realtor, and we say, if you did this, did this, I really think you can turn this property around.
Okay.
So we like to help out as much as possible using our design background, but then also using our knowledge with all the local codes that exist in order to achieve some of these things. Because I just got a call the other day from somebody in Eagle Rock who wanted to build a second story on their house. Now, if you're familiar with the lots in Eagle Rock, they're 45 feet by 100 feet.
Yeah, so there.
And so you have this little narrow lot, and they want to throw a second story on that, but they don't realize that your 1930s bungalow that's on there doesn't have a foundation, and so you have to really dig down and get a.
They don't realize the cost associated with the infrastructure to support it.
And sometimes that's not the best investment. So I told the guy, I said, you can throw a second story on your house, but I don't think you're going to recoup any of the money you put in the dirt in order to go up. And so he was like, really? And I said, so it's a lot of advice giving that we do.
Okay.
So,
And as you worked up, what did you, as you're growing your team, right? Because most of the agents have teams, growing teams. When did you realize that you needed leverage, and how did you find people, and how did you grow? Because I want to make this about how they can carry some of that information through into their business.
well, really, it's going and looking at people and say, it's not what can I get out of this person. It's what can I do to you to make you succeed. Okay. And so if we live in that as a mantra, like all these guys who are builders for our projects, if they're not communicating with me about what they need in order to execute the dreams that I have in my head, then I would be nowhere. Because a lot of what we do is design build, and so without these guys coming back and saying, yeah, we can execute this, or Joseph, you're crazy, how are we gonna lift a 3,500 pound tub across 300?
Because some of these really big projects have really unique features and logistic issues, and then even design issues where even the departments of building and safety, may have never seen this before, right? And so you're doing
A
really
lot.
unique things.
A lot of really unique things that people, and I think that's what sets us apart, and that's where we bring the hospitality aspect of our design world into the residential, because a hospitality design project, you kind of
you want to be able to
more free.
Yeah, you want to dream more, right? You want to interpret some sort of creativity into your design, but then you need a team that can execute it. But then it's not only executing the plan, but logistics and getting the city on board and other government agencies, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's a village that it takes to build not only just these houses, these 50,000 square foot homes. We're talking even just a 2,000 square foot home. You still require at least 20 to 30 people on a team to execute everything that you really need. Otherwise, you could do it on a smaller team.
Yeah.
Just take your timeline and go like this. Because the time, so it's either the more people you have that are going to make the project go faster. We built Hillcrest in 24 months, tore it down and built a new house. Went from an 8,000 square foot house to a 24,000 square foot house.
So I was going to ask you, was there a time delay because it being so large and unique? But it doesn't sound like that actually was delayed.
I think that because of the way that we do our projects, which is a design build project, we are able to achieve things on a faster basis because we're not getting tied up on, well, like for instance, I guess I should go to.
Well, it's also like it's like both hands are talking to each other, so you don't have the design team blaming the people building, and the builder isn't blaming design, which I see constantly in commercial renovations. Same thing with residential. When they're both working in the same business, then it's hard to pass the blame. They just solve the problems. It seems to be more efficient.
We have to be solution people, not problem people.
Yeah.
We wouldn't, when we did CRMR, we went in and we were just going to do a light remodel on this house. And it started with a $2 million budget, went to a $4 million budget, went to a $7 million budget. And that's primarily driven by the client. But when he kept on wanting us to expect the unexpected, go above and beyond what we could, tear this out, put that up. And we did this all with very little permitting because of the design build. And a lot of the permitting that gets done during the process, whereas a lot of people do it before. They get all the permits, but then what happens is in LA and in Beverly Hills and in Malibu especially, you're designing something in 2012 and then getting it approved in 2015, and then your design is basically old at that point, and there's so many more things that you want to do, but you're locked down into this funky layout that you had approved from years ago.
Because like in Malibu, is that more the Coastal Commission? Is that one of your biggest obstacles?
In Malibu, the Coastal Commission's the hardest, but really right now with Malibu, it's the fires.
Oh, fires. Okay.
And getting once that there's a clear pathway to get all the haul out of all of that, then they'll start going back in and allowing new construction, because right now they're not allowing any new construction.
Okay. Is it true that they're planning on fast tracking construction once they figure it out and get potential land kind of remeasure because again, lot lines have changed. I mean, things have eroded. There's been a lot of change in topography, basically. Just Santa Barbara, up in Northern California, Malibu, all of that.
There's a lot of there's a lot of red tape that we're up against in the design world for all of that, and I think that our customers are trying their best to be patient. So I don't foresee a lot in Malibu or any of the other coastal, like say up in up north even, where they had all the fires. I really don't think that we're going to start to see a lot of progress inside of those for a little bit. Just because
that's what happened. Yeah, Malibu fires from way back in, I want to say late mid-90s, was it? It took a long time because of the coastal. Unlike Napa, which had a fire, it's already, the rebuilding is already happening because you don't have the government entities really kind of holding back on the design phase.
So we're trying to find some other areas. I see a lot happening like in the Holmby Hills areas. I see a lot happening in up north where we just finished 2 projects. In Lake Tahoe, another in Los Altos Hills, and those areas that were not affected by any of these natural disasters, they're really, people are buying over those areas because they can move their real estate. They can move from one house to the other, so I'm seeing other areas that are growing faster now because they're not buying in Napa or they're not buying in Malibu right now.
Right. So you talked about Holmby Hills, and obviously you've got projects in Bel Air. Talk about the mansionization and what happened. Obviously, these mega mansions were being built consistently all over. A lot of that market is not moving, right? Because it's a very tight market as far as who can buy in that price point. But talk about the mansionization and the impact as it relates to our agents here and construction in general.
I think that I think that there's always a buyer for any type of house. It's a lot of it is how the house is marketed, and because I see a huge difference in here's the after of this house, for instance, when we were about $12 million into this house, and we added a 2,000 square foot pool into this. So it's floating above. It's like a ridge of a mountain like this. It had to have 14 pylons that went 65 feet down into the earth to hold up the whole pool.
So this is an infinity pool here.
This whole thing is one big infinity pool.
Okay.
And so what we were up against was getting all the people below to approve what we wanted to do. And so literally I was like, what do we gotta do?
Not gonna
Hi, Mr. Jones, I want to put a pool above you, and he was just, wanted to see what we wanted to do, and we got the engineering, for it, and that was, a lot of it is doing that, is talking to the neighbors in a residential.
Okay, so you were building this based on the owner that was there. So this was not in any way, he wasn't building this potentially for a future spec situation.
This was a spec house.
It is. Okay, that's what I thought.
One of the other things that was really unique about this house.
There you go.
Here's the huge pool. The road. This is in the bird streets, and the roads up there are horrible. They're the cracks and everything on it. And so the developer said, let's just go, there's 12 houses, and see if anybody will be opposed to paving the road ourselves. And he literally spent it was like $200,000, but at this point when he was in $6 million, another $500,000 to do it, he was like, whatever, it's another $500,000. But he paved the road which
made the neighbors happy.
Which made all the neighbors happy, and because his trucks were going back and forth for the last 18 months, and so he paved the entire road, and so when anybody approached the house, they were like, oh wow, this is a really great road. We can't rely on our city as unfortunate as that is, we can't rely on the city to turn around and say, oh, we're gonna make the road for you guys, but we got 60 million other roads. And I really think that if we're developing projects inside of the hills or developing projects anywhere else in Southern California, we need to take a piece of that budget and restore our streets, our neighborhoods, like
I
our
agree
local
with that
park
too.
next to these homes.
My background was urban planning, and when it comes to things in the hills, I always said, like, when you see these power lines going through and you see the cause of the wildfires oftentimes is wind with these power lines. It's like, why, if you're putting in a $50 million house here and a $100 million house there, why aren't you burying the utility lines? It's a benefit for everybody around. If you create that benefit, you create goodwill. Otherwise, you spend it on legal. Say, we will do this in return for everybody's cooperation and allowing us to build this project.
Just do it. Yeah. Just do it, because it's never. Otherwise, it's just we just bury each other in just paperwork. You know? And then we end up really not with a good product for everybody, because now the road is nice. The next door neighbor says, wow, they remodeled their house, I'm going to remodel my house. It
increases
lights
value.
everybody on fire, because that's what happened here, because Hillcrest is 3 roads north of this. It's still on the same mountain, it's just up, like perched above it. And so this sold for, what was it?
It used to
19 million.
And bought it for 575.
And it was, and then the square foot price of this was something around like $3,000 a square foot.
And what was the timeline on it? Like,
This
how long
was
did
in
it take
2011.
from to kill it?
we-
The
It was an 18
18
month.
months.
This one was an
18 months from the
remodel.
purchase to completion, or on your end 18
Yeah.
months?
18 months.
What they listed for?
It was listed for 25, and it sold for 19.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and so from there he took that, the guy that I was designing for, and he bought the next lot. And there were certain things that we were looking for, and we wanted views. We wanted to buy the view. It didn't matter about the house, because whatever the house was, we were going to take it down. This is,
Wow.
when we're looking the other way, from Century City to downtown. So there were always all these promontory views. So then, right as soon as that project sold, we bought this property, which is at the end of Hillcrest. The opposite right here is Elvis Presley's house. This is Danny Thomas's estate, and then Opus 1, they started building right after we completed ours. That's just adjacent to this. So this was an 8,000 square foot typical Truesdale home. It has a height restriction. You can't go over 14 feet inside of Truesdale. You can't even do anything elaborate onto your roof design, because people are looking at all this. And so we're up against a lot of these challenges. And so this was the house before. This is now we're tearing down the house, trying to plan out, and our developer was like, it's not big enough. And this was taking an 8,000 square foot house and turning it into 15,000 square foot house, and he didn't think it was big enough. So we said, well, the only thing that you can do, then this is the house after. The only thing we could do is, this is the envelope that we could go as maximum as we could. And here's the floor plan of that. We can come back to this if you want. I want to show this. So what we ended up doing was going down another 14 feet, and we added a whole basement. And so this was 2012. After this, and we did this, they did the moratorium where you can't take out certain amount of dirt from your lot. And so I think you can do half of this now, but you can't go to this. And I think that was, we were pushing the city. Nobody was going subterranean to the extent that we were going to.
Yeah, especially in the hills.
They just were not approving it. Or nobody was doing it. It's not even that they weren't approving it. Nobody was doing it. But this gave us an additional 9,000 square feet.
If you took the price per square foot subterranean, which is going to be more expensive compared to up above, do you have an idea how you price per square foot?
Well, that's where we got to trick it out. It's not just you give a basement and throw a TV up. Yeah. There's more to it than that. We had a candy wall in there.
Yeah, I saw that.
We had a car that we had a thing that can rotate the car. We had a 40-foot bar. We had we have a full gym, a full sauna, steam room. We have a 2-bedroom apartment down there. We had another area, because in spec building, you really want to be as flexible as possible. You want the house to feel airy and open, but then you also want to be able to say, oh, if they move in, if a Saudi Arabian, this was always what our developer was saying, so if a Saudi Arabian family comes, they're going to have 19 people coming in, and we got to have flexibility. And we were like, we already have 9 bedrooms. And so the way that we designed the spaces was so that if somebody said, hey, we actually need a 12-bedroom house, well, you could put a wall here, and now these 2 bathrooms that are in the bar area can now become 2 bedrooms, and now you have 2 bedrooms and still have a large bar area.
Okay.
So we were really trying to be as flexible as possible with
That's smart.
with how the potential buyers when they came in.
Okay.
So from here, this is actually the whole basement level. That is, these are all light wells here, all these, and then here and here, these are also light wells. We couldn't daylight anything, but we created these little boxes that are basically fire escapes, and we made them, put like nice Zen gardens inside of them,
Okay. You have a theater down here too, don't you? The theater's
the theater. That was the other thing, is most people put the theater downstairs, and we wanted it to be a main event. We wanted the theater. We felt like the living room is where majority of the modern people who spend our time and watch TV or what that's like a really big thing. We didn't want all the suites to have to go all the way downstairs to it. So we put it right in the center because it's like a center of the house, and it was supposed to give all of this a communal space. And this is it here.
So again, the cars become almost like a showpiece in the room.
So another thing about us is we tend to design. There's so many interior designers in Southern California. A lot of them are designed very feminine, and so we're very masculine in our approach, and so we.
Why is that?
I think it's our clients. I think that the people that hire us, they are they want this showy. Before I came to residential design, I was doing a lot of Las Vegas projects. And so I think that the people that were working with me from then, they're very, they're going to go out and they're high rollers. They like that, very showy type of atmosphere. And so for some reason, we always get now attracted that type of masculine edge. And I'm all right with it. One of my icons that I love is Giorgio Armani, and Giorgio Armani just has this really beautiful juxtaposition between these really masculine materials that he uses, but with these really gentle, feminine-like forms. And I think that that is my own kind of little passion that I have with that sort of style.
Do you put things like fabrics, like all of a sudden you'll have Versace fabrics, or you'll have like Bentley or Bugatti, or somebody does labeled fabrics or whatever as part of the theme of a room or the house?
I think Jason put in another thing in here. So this is outside. These are the kitchen designs. I'm trying to get to this one photo. So I guess we don't have them. We in here. I thought we had a picture of it. In this particular house, we had a collaboration with Bentley, okay. And we put a Bentley dining area and a Bentley living area. We had 4 living rooms in this house, okay. So but we had that as like our main, like formal living room was using a Bentley collection. But then the other areas, it's sort of like when you're dressing yourself, you may have on like a Tom Ford tux or a Tom Ford suit, but then throwing on like a pocket square from somewhere else that is not a $500 pocket square. Still, you're not losing your look, But I think in residential, more so than in the commercial area, that in the residential area, they're more inclined to want to brag about brands. And so I think that...
So more than commercial, more than hospitality.
More, oh yeah, okay. In hospitality we knock everything off.
Okay, yeah.
Everything is knocked off. And so, like it's the hospitality, because the thing is in hospitality you're
trying to get the look without the cost.
Yeah, without the cost.
Which is one thing I want to really get to, which is, this is great, but very few clients can fit in this. So if you take that same concept and you move it into, say, a residential 5,000 square foot, $5.5 million house, which is a lot of the client base which we serve in these neighborhoods here, what kind of, I don't want to say knockoffs, or substitutes of materials and designs can be applied in that price range that still get that look and feel without the cost?
So this house was a remodel, and we used almost, I would say about 75 to 80% of the same exact materials that we put inside of our Hillcrest project. The only thing different is that it's inside of a more traditional style house. Okay. But you can see, like,
see the Bentley there.
We threw this Bentley pillow, but this is a sofa that we custom make.
Okay. So it appears you take something less expensive like a pillow, you spend more money on that, but make the couch a fraction of the cost as if you made the Bentley couch.
And there's certain, like, we used these custom chairs inside of Hillcrest as well. So it was like, we're still using the same, basically the same set type of furniture, but we're just changing out the leathers, we're changing out. If this was made by Fendi, we would say, okay, well, this has a curve like this, but what if we didn't curve like this? What if we curved like that? And then, we modify the design of it, but we still get the essence of this really high-end quality piece. Mm-hmm. And we have a manufacturer in LA that will make whatever we draw. And so we did that a lot on this house.
Okay.
Look, this whole closet, these Birkins are more expensive than anything in this room. One Birkin is probably more expensive than anything in this room. But the people, that's where it's really important. That's why I was saying the marketing in your project is sometimes even more important than anything else. Because when you walk into this, the design is nice, it feels open, it feels bright, it has really great tones. but the impulsiveness of a buyer is going to come in and say, I want that Birkin, you know, and then they're going to.
As realtors, we have to then watch those from leaving the house.
But then,
chained down with
that's also when you show the house. When these houses were shown, and still even to this day, when our other projects are shown, they don't have herds of people walking in through them. They set up exclusive engagements with people, and then they give them a personal tour. So that this way, it's really they can control the situation. They can also walk them space by space, and tell them why it is so special. And if that's not part of what you do as a realtor, you're losing so much opportunity from talking about why you're demanding the price that you're demanding, and you're leaving it up to them to write an offer, and then you're negotiating with them, you know?
And oftentimes the other agent doesn't understand. Like again, if the listing agent understands like the design materials and the creative behind it, they can sell the vision of that better than an agent coming in blind with just an agent or just with their clients to look at it. So
absolutely.
And again, that's what we're being paid to do, right? We're being paid to showcase the house to get the highest price.
Yeah, I've seen so many times with realtors, they show the house, but they're not really showing the house. They're basically like, welcome, yeah, take a tour, see what you like, and
this is the kitchen.
Yeah.
they're letting the people go, and a lot of people, I think it's reading whoever's coming into the space a lot, but you know, we want to give you guys the tools in order to be able to say, you know, yeah, if you love this closet, I'll give you the Birkin bag. You know, like we want to be able to create, because we're creating a look that then you guys can then do all the bragging. That's really what we're trying to make spaces that are unique and talking points.
So I did want to cover, again, as realtors, we want to go in and we want to showcase things that like, this marble could be very expensive from a certain place that is 10 times the cost of a Carrera. How do we educate our agents about materials? Because oftentimes it may be something very unique. In a house like this, it's oftentimes remote, it's not common. And how, besides the contractor, where can people get educated on what is kind of like the newest, latest, and greatest materials as they walk through houses that they're unfamiliar with representing buyers, knowing what materials are current and make sure they're not misrepresenting materials as well.
You know, a lot of it is when you go into the house, find out first if there was a design team on it, and then to just call us up and say,
okay,
hey, can you tell me a little bit about why you chose the things that you chose? That would be a gold mine of information. But if there isn't a designer, and now you're trying to put together what is inside the home, I think that you look at it how when we're approaching a project, we look at it conceptually, and we look at the things that we see in art, and we look at the things that we see in movies and in film, and we see what are the trends that are happening inside of that world, because the most current movies, the most current TV shows, we're watching that and we're so tuned in and we're going, wow, that looks so good there. And then a lot of people are seeing that and then wanting to apply what they see on film to their homes. So a lot of what we do is look at film and cinema.
Can you talk about like what's current right now? Like if you had a meeting today, like if you went into somebody's home and they said, we want you to do, I don't know exactly at what point they hire you, Is it mainly developers? Is it regular people?
Majority of who hires us are developers.
Okay.
But we do work with a lot of homeowners as well. I'll give an example of our project that we just finished up in Northern California in Los Altos Hills. It's a beautiful, like, equestrian area, and there's a lot of tech money that is there. So a lot of people who live in Palo Alto or work in like Google and Facebook and the chip companies are all right there. So you have a lot of these really smart, educated, intellectual people living in these 1940s, 1950s ranch-style houses. And I started I asked my client to get a sense of who he was. And through understanding who the client is, a homeowner, we start to develop like a profile on him. And for this concept that we had in his home was, if he was really not a chip producer and he was an astronaut and he went to the moon, what would his house look like? And so we started then taking...
Because that's something he told you, or you guys just thought, this is what we see with this guy?
He started telling us about how when he started, this man, he created in the early 80s, late 70s, the speak and spell. Remember, you would type it in, and you would say like hello, and I go hello, it was a really creepy noise, but it was a really cool gadget.
Right.
That actually is what Siri uses today in order to translate what Siri is trying to read. So he invented this, and I said, wow, like, you went to the moon. And he said, it's funny that you said, because I first wanted to be an astrophysicist. And so then we started saying, like, well, what you tell us about that? And so we started developing who he was as a person. And we realized that he really already did go to the moon because of what he created and his legacy. It was going to be his home where he was going to retire. So we made this home really based on this personality that we saw evolving out of him, that even he didn't really know about him. And so we started putting little, really like high-techy looking chandelier, like custom made chandeliers, blown glass that looked like a fuselage in like an airship. We made his office look very futuristic and looked like it should have been inside of like a Star Trek Enterprise type of thing. So we honed into this core thing about his personality, and we started bringing that into the design. And so I think that when we're looking at, I don't like to look at trends. I like to think about what is the concept, or what is the mood that you're trying to achieve. Because if you really just get to the meat of who, what, where, why they're living there, or what they're trying to do, who they are. I have these little things that I just he doesn't like round things. He likes square things. He doesn't like And so I the first 4 to 6 weeks of being with somebody, I start to really psychoanalyze them and kind of break apart what is their shape. What is their alignment of, if they're a square, then when you put a circle next to it, do they want to be on top of the circle, or do they want to be adjacent to the circle?
I so appreciate the detail that you guys are in. I think as realtors, we're trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
So how if you came into any house today, and what, because I think at this point we're being asked to do a little bit of what you do, which is stage, or to make a listing appealing And like a lot of times we don't have 4 to 8
Depersonalize it as much as possible.
weeks. Depersonalize
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
You're going the
depersonalize.
other direction.
So now they're totally different when I build a house on spec.
So talk
So
about
they're
what
two
you-
totally different things.
Love
Because
your
when I design a house that is for a homeowner, I really get into the person,
Right.
and I start to develop an architectural language based on their personality. If it's a spec house, I got to create that person.
Yeah. that's
So
what-
for our Shadow Hill house, which I think is this way, for this house, which
anyway.
when this happens a lot to us. This is the house, I would say 90% of the time I am tearing down. Because this house is everywhere inside of Southern California. Even Northern California, this house is everywhere. And so it's just
The boring
really
ranch.
low ceilings. It's just, there's not much you can really do with it. So I tear this house down a lot. And inside of here, if you see what we did, there was this flat pad, all this, and we ended up going subterranean here. But that's just the form, right? When we talk now about the materials or the things that were chosen in order to give the mood of the house, we said, okay, this house is going to be finished around 2017, 2018. We have 2 more years. What's going on right now? And we were watching the Sam Mendes film, the Bond movie. I said, what if, Hillcrest was all about if Frank Sinatra lived inside of this house and it's 2020, what would it look like? And so that was kind of like our person for Hillcrest. This house was
Do you have
more.
any women that work with you at all?
No,
In
my office, in our
Look
office.
like a James Bond movie there. It's like Frank Sinatra's 20, like it's awesome.
It was. So
It is
we
very
had. So
masculine.
this was if James Bond, but it was not just if James Bond lived there. It was if James Bond went rogue. So it was like, so we wanted it to feel like a good guy gone bad in the house, and the way that we did that was each level gets progressively lighter. So when you enter into this area, notice it was all black.
It's the naughtiest.
So it was like he parks his car and he's like letting his day in, and so we were trying to get that person, and we started attaching. Well, when this James Bond gone rogue goes through the house, how does his personality change? And so my partner Fernando, he said, well, there's always a muse. He always has his girl. And so the girl, there's got to be this little bit of feminine in every room. And so, like, for instance, in here, we have all these hard, sharp things, and then we have this quartz crystal counter sink that's glowing, just placed in the thing. And so each space we have like our cabinets inside of the kitchen. You have all these.
And you guys
hard
custom
surfaces.
design the cabinets and build the cabinets.
Yeah, everything.
Almost everything is built.
In this project, we used we did all the design work, and then we worked with Light out of Germany. For this
Okay.
one. Well, they're on Beverly Drive, but they made the cabinets in Germany.
And again, when we take the Hollywood Hills and Truesdale and things like that, you're building super ultra modern. This doesn't, like, if you're in the flats of Santa Monica, like we had talked about, you're looking at the interiors more like this house, more like Cape Cod is the style with retractable glass walls in the back that exit out to what seems more modern, right? So that's kind of, so why is different areas kind of have different styles as more of a theme, right? Like, again, Santa Monica being Cape Cod.
I think that I think it's a vibe. I think it's context. right? I think that a lot of even the holistic feeling that people live with inside of Santa Monica or in Venice, or there's just there's a vibe that they live their life in, and so then you start seeing it inside of the way that the homes are designed. Venice is a little bit more like industrial modern, right? There's a lot more there's a lot of Frank Gehry influence inside of that area. Right. And I think that, but then if you look at the mentality of somebody that lives in Venice in those homes, they love to see the architectural engineering of a building. They love to see the street and the ultra modern. They like to see that together, and like this. So there's a. It's just I really think that LA just has this huge widespread fabric of different types of personalities and all these pockets that you can find yourself. Like I want to be a beach dude for a little bit, so I'm gonna go live in Santa Monica, and I'm gonna have my Cape Cod style house. And
have you seen a difference from your perspective in saleability? Because I have my own view on this. As far as when it comes to sale, what is appealing more to the high-end consumer today? Is it Cape Cod? Is it modern? What can get a premium? And then what is the difference of like maybe the cost per square foot for, say, a Cape Cod as it compares to that of a modern or a hacienda?
I think we're in a really weird time right now. I think that we had this really big influx. Because I did Hillcrest in 2012 to 2014, and then all of a sudden, Crystal Cove down in Newport Beach, they started now building all these really modern houses, but still with this like Spanish front, but then the inside is like completely
because it's very different down there. It was different down there. It was much more traditional Mediterranean and like big 12,000 square feet. Now it is changing.
And I think that a lot of it has to do with TV. If you look at what we were watching prior to 2010, we were watching Desperate Housewives, or at least a lot of the decision makers in the home are watching Desperate Housewives. So now they're watching like Scandal, and so the vibe, or what's that show on FX that I feel like everybody has been watching, and it's just got this total modern vibe. And so I think that people they change with the trends that they're seeing a lot on TV.
Does that have to do with the smart home and using their phone as the gadget to control everything too? And
yeah, I think
it feels like it appeals.
Has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
If you think in the last 5 years, I remember when we were first doing Sierra Mar, we were looking at a Crestron type system, and Crestron was like the name that you used for home automation. And then all of a sudden, after 2012, 2014, you started getting a lot more companies that you were able to customize your user experience in your smart home. And it really started changing the game. You have things like Philips, where you don't even need to change your whole housing of your light. You just change the light bulb, and
that's
now you have a smart light bulb.
Exactly, that's what we did here.
So there's I think home automation is a huge trend, I guess. But it's not gonna go away. That's something that I really
well, it's also code now for LED lighting and things like that for savings. Are you finding things like, again, green homes were a big thing before? What are you seeing in that space? And as far as things like solar panels on houses and things like that, what are you seeing happening in those areas, if any?
I see it more in the decisions that I'm making as a designer more than my clients asking. My clients don't care, and my homeowners don't even care. Nobody really cares, and the only person who's really gonna care is me, because I'm the one writing the spec and I'm telling somebody to build it. And so I really think a lot of the responsibility for sustainability has to come from the design and from the architect and from the builder. Because homeowners and developers, they really don't care. They just want, they're putting in their money and they want a product. They don't want to spend more money because it's green. Because the green doesn't sell. Like the green,
it's not giving them a
people
bump up.
People aren't coming saying, "Oh, I want this house because it's green." They want the house because it looks good. That's it. And it's unfortunate, but it's the priority of the design team to really be conscious of what we're putting in.
To be environmentally conscious from a design
for instance, this bathroom is a complete cradle to grave bathroom design. If in 5 years they said to me, I don't want to be inside this bathroom, this can all be disassembled and either resold into the industry, or if it was disassembled and put into a landfill, it's going to decompose. This can all be unscrewed. There's nothing glued here. It can all be disassembled. And so when I'm creating, I'm trying to create things that in 7 to 10 years, if they change it, it's not just this glued up thing that is just gonna go sit in a landfill somewhere. And it's really, it's your designer and your architect has to be thinking about the recycling in the future. Because that's where people get the biggest problem, is they'll buy things because it's really inexpensive, and then we're just we throw it out. Yeah. And I know that, or I do that specifically because that's how they do it in the hotel world. Because in the hotel world, every 5 years they're changing up their hotels.
It's like this house as well. Everything was in perfect shape. It just was dated, so I just remove it. And you think about all that waste going out, and it was perfectly great shape.
And think about how many more millions of people are doing the same thing.
Right.
You know, and it's just, what are we putting in? Trying to make sure that you're putting in as much quality as possible, so that this way it can last. Even if you want to do a renovation in the future, that the renovation can be done sustainably as much as possible.
So I wanted to ask you a couple questions I think would be interesting. So what project maybe has been your favorite project and why? Maybe
my favorite project I'm about to photograph. I'm about to photograph it it's the house that I did in Tahoe. I think it's my favorite project because it's unique in anything that I've done. And you know, I think that my second project that out of these, this is probably my favorite one. And mainly because it was, up until this point, I didn't have my husband working with me. And this was the first project that I started doing with my partner.
Okay. And when you look at projects, you know, this house is very open and flows really well, right? So when you're designing this and you're creating open spaces and things for entertaining, what are you considering in your design to create these large spans of open, what appear to be unsupported spaces, but they're obviously supported, but creating these unique, great open areas?
Are you familiar with the Gamble house in Pasadena?
The one with the huge overhang?
Yeah, the big overhangs. So back in the turn of the century, that's a Southern California quintessential home for modern design. It's almost like the grandfather of modern design homes. And one of the features is cantilevered roofs and sleeping porches. And mainly because we live in such a great climate that you get that indoor-outdoor feeling. And I think that we started seeing like these Cape Cod homes, which they're literally even called Cape Cod homes. Cape Cod's on the other side. And they're pretty, it's a style, but they're built because of the context of Cape Cod. Like in Cape Cod, they get all these winds from the ocean and they need to break up the house so that it could break up the wind from coming into the house. So we, like when you're in this house, you open these doors up, you don't need air conditioning.
Right.
You just open up the door and you get this beautiful cross breeze throughout your whole entire house. And
of course, my kids would have air conditioning on and have the doors open and every light.
And I think that's when we look at the past projects, the projects by Neutra. Neutra is a huge inspiration to me. He did all of the early mid-century modern homes in Silver Lake and Hollywood Hills.
Okay.
Looking at the Stevenson up from Truesdale, really looking at the predecessors that had really just great modern design. That even these Neutra houses that were built in the 20s, you go to them today, they still look
have that
really great because there's a basis in modern design that is all about purity and purity of form. I just like to take that purity of form and add things to it to make it,
Is there a certain architect that you really love and have inspiration from and that you base it on? Is it like a Neutra or is it other?
Yeah, I look to Neutra a lot.
Okay.
A lot. He's probably one of my most. I love all of his homes, and the glass that he was able to do back then was so impressive. I love Frank Lloyd Wright, but more of the Frank Lloyd Wright.
The later years. I agree with the later years. The way
I think his earlier years was too craftsman-y for me. I like his more modern stuff. Corbusier is
one of my favorites.
Is incredible. I love classic modernist designers.
But Le Corbusier didn't have a lot of presence in LA, correct? On the residential side.
Yeah, no, I don't think he did any.
One in Oak Pass, I believe. Is the only one. Oak Pass.
Up
in off of Hensel Road, and
really?
Is the only one that I know.
I'll have to take a look.
But what other architects are present in LA that agents should know? Because people say this is a Neutra or this is a Frank Lloyd Wright. Where are some of the other?
I think some of them more the current guys. I find that there are 3 or 4 firms that we're constantly in bids with, and it's with Paul McLean from McLean Design. I see also Marmel Radziner, and I noticed that there's there's another firm.
The one with the shiny metal gate, the gates in Bel Air, who's the silver metal gate,
Chad Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
I think he has a great aesthetic.
It's a signature detail that you see on the front of it.
Yeah.
Of the house.
On Michael Bay's house, you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that it really depends. And that is a homeowner driven project, but it's a.
Do you have a signature? Do you have a signature look if someone's driving down the street? Do they say this is one of your designs?
I think that our usage of glass on the exterior.
Okay.
Not glass that is like a window. We will clad the building with glass, which I think is.
You had that on the black on the gate of the Hillside house, right? Yeah.
So like here, this is actually you could probably see. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a line in here, right there. This is a clear story window in the bedroom that's there. This whole thing is really the outside of the building. You can't see anything from here. There's all wall on the inside. But it was messing with all the lines of the house. So, we clad it to make it look like it was a big, long, expansive, window. But there was each time that I've done this, I learned something every single time. And so I've done this now on, I want to say about like 6 homes. And each time I learn a little bit because it's this we had to the challenge was that this is the south this way or like southwest, and so this gets extremely hot.
Yeah.
And didn't have enough space in between the wall and that, and it was cracking, and so we had to then come forward with that. But then, this was, and I did this in 2012, 2013. And so now I've perfected these little things that you never know until you build, because there's nobody that's done these things before.
Yeah, so you don't have a model to go off of.
You don't have to say, what's the distance and what's the temperature? There's no way of knowing.
Yep.
And so, we're building things for the first time,
which is exciting too, because you create. The creativity is what I love about unique houses like this.
This was supposed to be the garage. If you remember the old house, this was the garage, and we went subterranean. And this whole subterranean garage was not going to happen. Beverly Hills was not going to allow us to do it. And we had to really, really fight the Beverly Hills Commission to allow us to do this. And a lot of it was, we had to, their biggest concern was water, and then getting the water. If water came down here, then it would flood this house, and that was their big concern. And because also the site is on this slope. So we had to put in a whole nother subterranean pump that if the street was to water, it goes in here, takes the water, and then pumps it into the sewer. So I mean, there's like things like that had to be negotiated. But I think the biggest thing that I take away from the tenacity of the developers that I work with and the builders is they don't let no stop them. They say, well, how can we get it done?
How do we solve it?
And how can we all meet, because we want this subterranean garage. We were able to they had a 3-car garage here, and was able to turn this into an 8-car garage.
Okay.
So was it the same reason that Santa Monica doesn't let subterranean garage?
Same exact. Santa Monica is notorious with their water. They now, all your new construction in Santa Monica, you have to build your whole rain retaining system, and so and I think that's what a lot of people don't want to build new, because there's just so much that you have to do that the city is telling
and the city wants you to keep the water on site in the retention basin.
And that's a lot of square footage.
That's a lot of square footage.
At least a quarter of this room inside of your basement somewhere, or somewhere on your house.
Right.
And that's a lot of space.
It is.
Just because
expensive space.
It's very expensive space when you think about the footings that need to get put in. It's a huge expense, and so that's what detracts a lot of people from building progressive.
So how do you calculate if I have a listing right now with the subterranean, which none of those in the market? How do I calculate that space as a
Count it. Just count it.
No, but how much per square feet? If I count like 900 above the ground, how do I calculate the value of that you cannot repeat? Nobody else can build it anymore. It's about 1,600 square feet, how do we calculate what's the value and let the seller know? You have a 1,600 square feet, but nobody thinks that it is above the ground value, but what is the value of that?
You know, I think because when we're doing our garages, we try to make them not look like a garage. We try to, and then this way that you can count it as a square footage as just as your other square footage. If you're gonna just treat it like as a storage area, then you almost have got to see what is the comp in the neighborhood for garage spaces. But I like to make the garage look like it could be like our one with on Shadow Hill. You can turn that into a nightclub. We can rent that space. It's like a 3,500 square foot space that we could rent out to a film company and shoot a music video in there, and they charge them, like $40,000 a day to film inside of there.
Right.
So
you stage it that way.
You get it. The garage, I think, is one of the most underlooked spaces in majority of houses,
especially for the high end where they are really trophy vehicles which are worth seeing, right?
You've got to make the garage look not like a garage. It's got to look this garage. You have this that you pull in. This you drive down and you can drive in, and it has a spinner. We could have just said, okay, we only want to put 4 cars in here, not 8 cars. And then that whole back area, we could have turned into a whole mother-in-law apartment in the back. And we still have the plumbing is there, so if this owner wanted to do it, he could do that. But that's what I'm saying, like, the garage should be something that if you can convert it at all into anything else, if it's just like a 2-car garage, then even in that, it shouldn't just look like drywall.
No, but that doesn't have any wall, right? Separate garage with that unit that you.
That right now, yeah, this is completely open. But you could, with the way that we engineered the building, you could very easily add a 10-foot wall where 2 cars would have gone. We would have added a wall, and we have the plumbing for a bathroom right there.
Right.
And so that was a selling feature to whoever bought the house, so that we could say, look, this is in the plans if you want to do this. But he kept the open 8-car.
In your experience in California, where's like the Wild West to build a house? Like, who's the most lenient? Is there a building and safety that will let you get anything by them? Like, is there a...
that Los Altos Hills was not very difficult.
Really?
It's a really small city planning area. It's like 5 people.
Wow.
Like and they're really I don't want to say, they're really laid back. They're not there isn't like a design commission, or there isn't, they're basically like, they're very like rancher feeling, up there. They're not, they're very open to innovation up there. So I really think that whole like Mountain View, Los Altos Hills,
Saratoga,
yeah,
even Redwood City, Woodside up on the 280, like the whole area, like it was farmland. That like it's interesting, and a lot of the areas
in
are
the East Bay, the
East Bay as well.
Bay.
Like yeah,
there's a lot of opportunity up there that I've seen, and even in the last.
It's tougher in
years.
like the Berkeley Hills and things like that because of previous fires. When you have events, it changes. It changes the Department of Building and Safety regulations, and you tend to see more stringent rules because of that. That's what we've seen in our disclosure. Our disclosures represent a lot of this too.
And I think like in Southern California, I'm really, you know what, I've been just dreaming about developing more because it's just, I feel like there's such great lots. What is that? It's Glassell Park, and then Highland Park,
Mount
and then,
Washington and like.
but even like more east of Mount Washington, there's a whole
Echo Park?
subdivision over there that is just not being developed for some reason, and it has the most magnificent views. It's like right like where the 5 and the 101 interchange is, and there's like a pocket of hillside properties there.
Like by Dodger Stadium, kind of.
Yeah, near Dodger Stadium. On the other side, though, of the 5.
I think Wilmer Park, you're going to see a lot more interesting teardowns and more modern structures going up consistently. Just because of the
there's so
views.
many of these
to the Hollywood Hills.
paper streets. I don't know. I don't really understand these paper streets because they're really inexpensive. It's really inexpensive land, and I just don't know why people aren't building over in this area.
I have a question for you. You do stuff under the enormous mansions we've been saying too, like 2,000 and up square feet. So if we have a client, you'd be happy to advise them on.
Yeah, this is all of our showcase houses. These are the houses that people, they kind of like our calling cards. But we have projects. We have like a 1,800, 2,000 square foot house that we're remodeling down in Manhattan Beach. We just worked with a lady in Sherman Oaks on her bathroom. So it's really our team can really do anything on the interior and anything on the exterior.
And so again, when you explain the services, you've got an architect, you can do MEP plans, you got the project, you have got the interior designs as far as cabinetry, furniture, all of that, as well as the outside landscape, the hardscape. You have all of that under one roof.
We're what we like to say more what we are is we're the homeowner or the developer's agent to getting things executed. So from anything from getting the permits to giving you the keys, we can really take care of you on any of that.
That's great.
And it just really depends on what the need is. Really, we like to be helpful. We like to be able to say, we like to be able to say yes. Like, we really do. And I think that a lot of people get confused on their space because they have the things that they like, and when you design, you can't pick things that you like because it doesn't make sense for the house or the area. It's gonna look funny. It's gonna look like it's just like stuck there, because it's just like when you're showing a house, you're going to depersonalize the house as much as possible, right? When you're designing or looking at design work, you want to make it as attractive to a broad amount of people, but then you also want to make it look good based on an idea that is a plan for the whole entire thing. And then that's the other thing, people remodel their houses. They do it in phases. And so, this kitchen was remodeled in 2007, 2006, and then their bathroom was remodeled in 2013, but their style changed. And so then you get this hodgepodge, and people don't realize, why does my home look so crazy? It's like, well, you've been designing it for 15 years.
Do you suggest that people, when they should they just decide to move out for a while, knock it down, and do the whole thing over? As a designer, because you have people that come to us all the time, which things are going to add the most value, right? And it's
the functionality has to reign supreme. I see so many kitchens, and I go into so many kitchens that I how could you want to? Would you want to cook in this kitchen? I say to people, you know.
You're just in my kitchen, weren't you? You saw
Your kitchen's really cool, though. I've never seen a kitchen right off the front. That's a really
Yes.
and it's a
Different.
nice, spacious kitchen. The thing is that people when they have these kitchens that are not set up to win. They're set up to make you feel like, oh, I'm not a good cook because I have to move this over here and that over there, and I'm running over there, and I'm the refrigerator is on the other side of the island, and like it's just not. It was not planned out, and that's majority of the spaces when I walk in, and I'm like, no wonder you hate life because your kitchen is like backwards.